Gasly second? You're having a laugh. Second
I agree.
of the whole
I
grid.
agree with Mo.
Oh my god. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I think Gasly's had a great season. I think he's done really well, and I think I'd put Leclerc first, to be honest. I think he's had a great season, but I'd put
I wasn't
Gasly
expecting
second.
I put Pierre
I
Gasly
wasn't
P1.
expecting that. Jeez. Whoa. Wait a minute. So Antonelli's not in the top 5, Ewan? Welcome back to another episode of the TFR podcast. We are back today to review the 2026 Japanese Grand Prix. We've got a full team here today to recap everything that happened from Suzuka, and it is our last race review for the next 5 weeks. So be sure to enjoy this one because it's going to be a longer wait until Miami comes back around. It's myself, CJH. We've got GP on the right there, Mo down in the bottom left, and then Ewan making his debut on the podcast tonight. So, where do we start, guys? We're going to start with the race result, and it is Kimi Antonelli who has continued where he's left off with his first win in Shanghai. He now is a 2-time race winner, making it back-to-back victories, and some would argue a bit of a fortunate win again. Not that China was necessarily 100% fortunate. It was still a very good drive from Antonelli, but this one was definitely more leaning towards that category. Antonelli did have a bad start to the race after getting pole position and dropped down to 6th, but a late safety car allowed him to retake the lead from Oscar Piastri for the second half of the race, and he never looked back from there on in. So, JP, I'll go to you first. I hope we're all well. And what did you think of Kimi Antonelli's victory in Japan?
Obviously, we already see in the race he's pacing the clean years pretty often. Like 14 seconds against the McLaren is still a quite big margin because they are obviously still using the same engine, and it's just very good. But the thing in question is about Mercedes pacing this year because we already seen after Kimi dropped in the start, he kind of got stuck behind Orlando and one of I think it's Charles. He got stuck there a little bit and it took quite a long time to overtake Orlando and never really got past Charles before the safety car, I think.
Yeah, he did struggle. I think there was that initial thing, I think it was on even the second lap, where Antonelli got straight back past Hamilton, and we really saw that kind of almost overpowered overtake with these batteries where there was no way you could defend it. It was straight down the start, finish straight. And I think what we saw here, Mo, that at this particular track with Suzuka, this was a bit of a harder circuit anyways for overtaking, but it was very much, you had that different variable compared to the first 2 rounds of the season, where this time it wasn't just a slam dunk every time. If you did get it done into the first corner, no one could come back at you. So that was the other element. But then we had drivers trying it up the inside into the chicane and then having to defend. What did you make of that aspect? I mean, it did hold off the Mercedes for a while until they inevitably came through the pack.
It's definitely how these cars work. Like, when the first car empties the battery trying to overtake, then they have no battery, and then the second car can re-overtake them in the next straight. Especially if it's like you saw in the last corner. Like, even if you get in front of the car after the last corner, you will get straight you will get re-overtaken very quickly before turn 1 if you don't have the battery left. So that's how these cars work, and it's not very fun to watch, to be honest.
Yes, I'm not surprised you're saying that, and we will get on to that at some point where I think there has to be some changes which are apparently going to happen before the next round in Miami. But what did you make of the weekend overall, Ewan? Did you enjoy what you watched? I mean, not to kind of get this out of the way here, we know you're a big Lando Norris fan, it obviously hasn't been the perfect start to the defense for you. But did you enjoy the racing nonetheless?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to be as unbiased as possible.
Oh, don't worry about
But
that here.
but yeah, it's been a tough start for Norris. But overall for racing, I think it's been something to get used to. I think it's very different to anything that we've ever watched before in F1. I quite enjoy the racing. I think it's quite tactical. You have to use the battery at a good point to get past. Like as we saw in Japan, going into a Casio triangle, you have to kind of shape for the move and make sure you have enough battery for the first straight to make sure to hold on to that move. So I felt like that was quite good to see because there was some proper driver skill there, and yeah, it was a decent race to watch, I think. And considering last year we got pretty much zero overtakes around Japan, I think it was a decent old race.
Yeah, I think that was the interesting point. I was watching the highlights earlier, and I kind of felt like, you know what, I wouldn't be able to remember everything that happened in this race, but there was a lot of races last season and previous kind of ground effect editions, particularly of the Japanese GP, and you can pretty much remember all the key moments and everything that happened. I mean, you think about the 2025 Japanese GP, where Verstappen actually won. Can anyone here actually say of some exciting moment that happened in that race or some great battle? And I think that is... Well, there was that, but it wasn't on track even. You get what I mean? Like, even that wasn't like, two cars going at it into the first corner or into the chicane. I think, like, in fairness, it's not right the way these cars are, but can you see where I'm going with it, Mo? That maybe it is still better than what we've had in previous years. It's just not quite the perfect thing yet.
In terms of overtaking, yeah, I can totally agree. And with the battles also, because you can actually get alongside each other, but just the way of repassing each other all the time, because, the one used the battery earlier than the other is just very painful to watch. Just waving them by. And, I rather have the cars have less dirty air and more like power from the engine itself to actually have the advantage with the engine and slipstream instead of just pressing the overtake button, because it's not Formula One. It's like more Formula E and Le Mans with the electric button to actually get more power instantly.
Do you agree, JP, or are you more, you know what, I can tolerate a bit of kind of Formula E coming into F1 if we get an exciting race? No.
No, I think this is just not the way forward. I think like the aero itself is good enough, if I'm honest. I still don't really like the active aero thing because you can't now really do there's not a really like a low downforce setup anywhere right now because everyone's using straight line mode in every spread. So there will be like no compromise for for something like Spa. Usually, like if you go for a low downforce setup, you compromise sector 2, and if you go for a high downforce setup, you compromise sector 1 and sector 3. There's no playing ground in that anymore. But in terms of engine, it's just not the way it is. I know it's a way to keep some of the big manufacturer to stay in the sport, especially like something like Audi and Mercedes. They want like the thing the way it is. Maybe Audi want even more electricity, but fans have just not enjoy it. And I just watched the P1 podcast this morning, and I saw like they said the drivers are like really actively talking about the whole scenario in their WhatsApp chat, which is quite rare to see. So to be honest, this is quite bad.
I mean, it is bad because obviously the big news out of Japan was Max Verstappen really giving his biggest hint yet of an early retirement from F1, or quitting at least, at the end of the season. And it was in an interview with BBC where he was saying, like, I don't really care about the money or winning more championships. If I don't enjoy racing, referring to F1 obviously, then he's got other things out there in life. Do you see Verstappen retiring at the end of the season, Ewan, or is this just a bit of trying to get these things changed and, using it to help with that?
Well, he's been saying things like this for quite a while now, but he isn't quite enjoying it. And yeah, he's been doing racing at the Nürburgring, and I think he's been quite enjoying that. Um, Whether I think he'll retire or quit, I don't think so. I think he's just saying that to put pressure on F1 and the FIA to make changes to the rules. And look, he's heavily influential. He's four-time world champion. So he has got a lot of influence. And so, yeah, I think he is just saying that. I'm sure it's probably crossed his mind about retiring, but look, it's the start of a regulation. Lots of things can change. We can see mid-season changes, or we could see changes going into 2027. So, yeah, I think it's not a bluff, but I think it's just he's putting it out there just to put a little bit of pressure on the higher ups.
Well, it's the thing. The many drivers have called for change, particularly after the crash for Ollie Behrman at the Japanese GP. There was a big shunt for him about halfway through, which caused the key safety car. That obviously kind of changed the way the race was looking, which we'll kind of get more onto that later. But Ollie caught up to the back of Franco Colapinto as he was kind of charging the battery, or super clipping, if you like, going into Spoon. And completely couldn't react to him and had a 50G crash. And Carlos Sainz, after the race, really was quite vocal on this, that that's an example of the drivers have been saying that's going to happen, and a crash like that has now happened, and they don't want that to happen at a circuit like Vegas or Baku, where it's concrete walls that you'll be crashing into. And I think there's definitely going to be change coming. What do you think, Mo, about with Verstappen? Obviously, he's more your guy with this kind of stuff, in terms of you being a Dutchie. And I don't necessarily agree with his theory, but would he not be saying this if he was still winning races?
No, I think we've known Max for a long time, and he's very honest about his reactions to certain kind of stuff. And when he's saying like he wants to retire because he's not enjoying his car, then he is actually very serious with it. Because I also am not looking forward to 2026. If that's also not a good game, then I understand his point of view. But for us, it's still to see how much we like it on the game. But I definitely think that Max is not joking around with retiring because of the regulations. Because Max was just being very sarcastic, like he just waved Gasly by. He was looking at a concrete, I don't know, wall or something. Like he was not having the time of his life at Japan at all. Like, and it is one of his, most best tracks in terms of race wins. Like he won 4 times in a row on Japan.
Yes, yeah. Since we returned to the circuit after COVID, he won every race and got pole every race as well.
So for him to say it is actually even more serious, because he enjoyed this track, and to be saying these things is not something to joke about.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's getting to that point now where the drivers are going to step this up more and more, the less changes that are applied. There are reports today made by The Race of some changes coming, and I've got them here to read out when I can eventually find it. So the 6 measures that they're having a meeting about next week, apparently, which is to increase the power of the super clipping from 250 kilowatts to 350, reduce the energy consumption so then it doesn't run out as quickly, which I think is quite a good thing. I think particularly qualifying that will help. Reduce the maximum recharge per lap to 6 megajoules, which I think has gone from 8 down to 6 with that one. And then unrestricted use of active aerodynamics, which I think is very interesting. We'll get back to that one. And then an increase of the ICE ratio with the electrical power, which will probably be for next season, not this season. And then there'll just be an overall simplify of how the drivers deploy the battery. GP, on the key one there that's sticking out to me that I don't think anyone's necessarily asked for is the unrestricted use of active aerodynamics, which is, for people that don't know what that is, it's the front wing and the rear wing kind of opening like the DRS used to do. What do you think that's all about? Because surely that is even more dangerous now, having that as a free-for-all.
The word unlimited is kind of weird to me. So, like, it's unlimited to what point? Like, you can only
They can use it wherever.
choose. No, like, but like, you can choose only like put down the front wing or only put up the rear wing. Like, you can do it
No, that's a good
separately or
point.
have to do it both way. Like that. That's also a valid point. So it will like go back to the time when we in 2011 when we had unlimited DRS in qualifying, where you can use it everywhere, and you see Sebastian Vettel like opening DRS at 130 now, which is, well, to be honest, kind of cool. But this is, to be honest, for me, this is the right way, because Formula One is always for me a kind of modern day gladiator sport. It should have some sort of aspect, but not in a way where because you're going slower. You know what I mean? And it should be a way like people trying to find the limit of the grip, find the limit of power, and things like that to extract some of the bravery and the ability of themselves.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, JP. You need that kind of excitement element and the risk as well for the drivers. The drivers suddenly now try and push the limits. They try and go even further. You can end up stepping over the mark with this, and that's why some restrictions need to be there to make sure it doesn't kind of get out of hand. And obviously Jack doing into turn 1 last season had that almighty crash because he was trying to keep the DRS open. And is that maybe opening another tin of worms here by the FIA and FOM that maybe didn't need to be opened?
Yeah, it feels like we're going kind of one step forward, but also one step backwards with these talking points, because you're going one step forwards in terms of the energy that is being discussed to change. I think that's a good thing. But then you're going one step backwards with this active aero. So I think the reason for this is because if you're going to decrease the amount of energy, the cars are going to be slower. So I think the FIA are conscious of that and think that if you deploy active aero everywhere, you're going to improve your times just a little bit, because I think they're conscious about how quick the cars are. I think they want them to be relatively quick, especially quicker than the F2, quicker than the F3 cars, because that would be a disaster if they were any slower. But look, I think it is dangerous because, yeah, like you said, CJ, with the Jack Doohan incident, and like a failure like that, if you're going into a corner like 130R with both your front wing and your rear wing down, I think that could be very dangerous. So, yep, I'm sure that'll be discussed, but I'd be extremely surprised if that goes through as a rule that will come in for maybe this year or maybe next year.
Well, here's the thing. These are only kind of meetings, and it's just going to be discussions that will be had. I hope that doesn't become a thing, because you know what? I actually think the cars are pretty damn good this year. I think the cars are good. We saw a lot of the drivers able to follow at Suzuka, which has never really been a thing for a heck of a long time in F1. And I think once they get the actual engine element kind of sorted out with F1, and particularly the battery, shall I say, then I think we'll be onto the right path with this regulation. It's not right how it is right now, but I think with a few tweaks to that battery, we'll get there. And hopefully for Miami, they can take a step in the right direction. I think if they take a step in the wrong direction, then we might be a little bit screwed for this season. But someone who's not going to be screwed this season in terms of his enjoyment of F1 is Kimi Antonelli, Mo, bringing it back to the race winner here. I'm going to have to ask this quite a few times this season, I have a feeling, but is the young Italian going to be the first Italian world champion in a long time? Are you seeing enough at the minute?
For this season?
Yes.
For this season? Well, he definitely surprised me by winning again. But yeah, it's not without mistake, because at the first corner he lost the pole position with to P6. So he still makes mistakes, and that's still something he needs to try to get off. Get over it to try, be more competitive. Because I think if the safety car didn't come out, then I think Piastri will have a good chance to win the race. Because even with the overpowered engine that Russell had in terms of compared to the McLaren, he couldn't get past. So I don't think it would have made any sense if Anthony would have won. I did, by the way.
Little cameo there. But yes, I think this is the thing. I feel quite strongly on this, and I don't want to come across to the listeners as an Antonelli hater here. But I think he has been incredibly lucky so far this season. And I think this, in particular, was the height of luck in F1 that you can kind of get, where there's one safety car in the whole race, and there's one pit stop in the whole race. Everybody else, bar Hamilton, had made a pit stop in this race, and the only other driver was Antonelli, who was kind of already starting to come through the field, but he was struggling, and Russell got stuck behind Piastri and didn't seem to be finding a way through. Piastri was comfortable. I don't think Antonelli is getting past Russell and Piastri to win that race. So I think Sky and a lot of the kind of broadcasting after the race completely slept on that. Completely slept on the fact that that was almost like a handed victory. I know he won the race by 14 seconds or so, which that's what people will probably be firing at me there. But, JP, do you hear what I'm saying here? Antonelli was no way winning that race without that lucky pit stop. And it was lucky.
Yeah, obviously you can't get over the fact that he's lucky. Like, honestly, if I don't think there's no that safety car, I think he would be like, I still think he might be George, because from we see FP2, he's London pace this whole weekend is just better than George, and not by like hundreds or thousands. It's like around 2/10. So I think he can get by George, even though there isn't that safety car. But I don't think he can beat Oscar. Like, that's pretty clear. I think, and obviously before the safety car and before George pitted, he is already pulling the gap on the Mercedes. Like George is not closing. Like, George is falling back towards the backpack rather than catching up to Oscar. So it should be a win in the bag for Oscar, even though we haven't really seen he is a hard type. Or we've seen his hard type performance, but it's basically the same pace as George, I would say. So I would say like there is Kimi will find a way to maybe fight for P1, but I don't think he'll win the race if there's no. But I do still think he will finish ahead of George.
Oh yeah, no, I think that I could kind of get that. But no, I was like mildly pissed off about this. Like, I was genuinely annoyed with Antonelli win this race because of the way that happened. I think these are the worst kind of wins in F1 where it's basically been handed after someone's had a bad start as well and they're struggling in the race, and then somehow they've gone from that to then win the race. Do you hear what I'm saying, Ewan? I sound like I'm some Piastri fan. I'm not a Piastri fan at all, and I thought he drove brilliantly, but, was he really hard done? I mean, I was surprised he wasn't more annoyed after the race.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one because I think it is safe to say Antonelli has gotten very lucky in these first few races. Um, but there's also that other side that he hasn't really looked back since his Australia crash in FP3, I'm pretty sure it was. But yeah, I think he has been pretty lucky with Russell's issues. Russell also has an issue in Japan qualifying, apparently with vibrations on the rear. Um, so yeah, I think Antonelli has done well to capitalize on what's been put in front of him, but I do also think, like you say, CJ, I think the media have overrated this win, and yeah, I think he's shown some great potential. He's only in his second year. He's still 19, but yeah, I feel like over a season, Russell has still got that consistency and that pace, just to get enough and win this championship. But I also feel like Antonelli showed that pace in Japan qualifying, and I feel like that pace was really good. Even with Russell's issues, I feel like Antonelli had that throughout. Whereas in China qualifying, for example, I feel like Russell had that by about 2 attempts until he had that issue, and then Antonelli won from that. So yeah, it's tough. I think Piastri also. Piastri would be annoyed, but I feel like he's just grateful that he's got a start under his name after a terrible start to
Yeah.
the season with 2 DNSs. So I feel like he's just quite grateful to be back up there. But yeah, overall, I feel like Russell still has that over season, but watch out for Antonelli.
Yeah, absolutely. I've literally said it every podcast we've done so far this season that we all here were on the same amount of laps completed as Piastri in actual Grand Prix this season, and I can't say that anymore. For crying out loud, the first lap he did, he was leading the race. I mean, he had such a good start. He was he literally couldn't have done any better, and I agree with him when he said after the race that was one of his best races of his career. And I strongly feel he should have won that race, and that would have been an amazing kind of result for him. You're squinting your face, Mo. Is that you disagreeing? Do you not think that was one of his strongest races of his career? I'll happily argue this.
It's just it was also a bit of luck because the McLaren was definitely not on the pace, and it was mostly because of the battery. Like it was more like the battery and the problem of these regulations that made him able to have a chance to hold on to the lead. But it's not because of the talent and something. Like in 2025, I definitely think Spain, Belgium, and the Dutch Grand Prix definitely stand out.
Well,
And
hang on a
maybe
minute.
Miami.
Hang on a minute, though. Like, surely that is because of Mercedes' bad start. That's how Piastri got in the lead. And then that is his skill, the fact that he's been able to hold off Russell for how long he did, and then build that gap as well. And, Mercedes, that's their problem, that they're getting bad starts. Surely that is not the regulations. That is surely Piastri's good driving to be able to keep the lead like that.
No, I need the repassing. I don't like that. It's when.
But surely he
when
still did good, though, to manage the battery. Surely there's praise there.
But it's
No,
easier to manage a battery when you're in clean air. That's like if you don't have to tangling with anyone else, because it's like a circular thing. Like it's like what we did in the game. You can have a circular lap average you use, and you don't need to use any more than average to overtake someone. It's just easier.
But my argument to that would be that the car behind has the extra overtake bonus that they get per lap with energy deployment. So, in fairness, he might have the clean air, but they've got the extra battery behind. So, is he not doing a good job by keeping someone behind? Look at the others. 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton went falling back towards the end of that race. And someone else, I'm pretty sure it was it Russell that got overtook by somebody on the restart as well. I hear what you guys are saying.
Lewis.
Yeah, I think though, like, we can't completely bash some of this stuff to, complete pieces here. Like, I think good driving is still good driving, even though it's the cars that we've got. I mean, what do we think of Charles Leclerc? Because I think he actually had a really good race and pulled off some great overtakes. I mean, JP, what did you think of him? Because he was one of the drivers that kind of suffered a little bit from the pit stops with the safety car, and then came roaring back, managed to hold off Russell as well, who obviously was struggling this weekend with setup issues and all sorts of other things, but made a great move on Hamilton as well. I mean, surely he had a good drive. JP? Yep, there you go.
What I think is, yeah, obviously Snell had a very good drive, but I also, yeah, Snell basically did a very good job this weekend. Managed to put the car in P4 in qualifying. Don't really think that Ferrari can do any more than that, to be honest, because they are, to be honest, from what we see in free practice, they're nowhere near McLaren's or Mercedes. The hold of Russell usefully, I would say, like the re-overtake on turn one, that was a ballsy move. That looks pretty much a 2005 physical and Kimi one for me, and it looks staggering. But yeah, he just did a very solid job. He did what the car is capable of. Like, that's what I'm going to say. It's just great execution, but I'm still a bit struggling to see his qualifying. When you remember what he said after the qualifying, and he said, like, there's no way to push these cars. He said what he basically said, the faster you go in the corners, the slower you go on straight, which is a bit BS, to be honest, for me. But yeah.
Well, that is true. That is true. But I'm trying to keep it lighthearted here and positive, JP. I know, like, the regulations are crap. I think we can all agree with that. But I'm trying to look at the positives here from what we can, because we almost might as well not watch it if it's all kind of rubbish with these new regs. But Leclerc, I thought, yeah, had a great drive, and for him to hold off Russell was brilliant stuff from him. What about Norris's race, Ewan? I'd imagine you'll be an expert on this. You probably analysed every single lap that he did. Only joking, obviously. Talk to me about his race. How was it?
Yeah, I think it's just been a tough weekend for Norris. He had limited running time throughout the weekend with issues in all three practice sessions. So yeah, I don't think it's a surprise that he was quite far off Piastri this weekend. But all credits to Piastri, and in my opinion, I think that is one of his best races of his career. I think he did a great job. I think that's up there with Qatar for a race that he drove so well but didn't get a win. But yeah, back to Norris. Just a tough weekend. He's obviously 3-0 down to Piastri in qualifying, and I feel like that doesn't tell the whole story. I think he has gotten very unlucky with car issues. But look, he's also been lacking a little bit of pace. But we saw this last year. We saw this that it takes quite a few weekends just to build up and understand the car, and I have a feeling it's a bit like that this year. And yeah, in the race this year in Japan, he kind of was just at the back of that front train and just kind of waited for something to happen, and nothing really happened for him because he just wasn't quite close enough, didn't quite have the pace to challenge. Of course, he had limited time in practice to get some actual race laps on the board. But yeah, he was about 2 tenths a lap slower than Piastri over the course of the race. So yeah, it's a shame for Norris, the reigning world champion, but yeah, at least he got Hamilton at the end, and I think that was a big move. It was looking close. He got close to Hamilton at the end, and then dropped back a bit after getting re-overtaken. But then he saved his tires and got back through at the end. And I feel like it would be a much different story if Norris didn't get through from Hamilton, because I feel like that would have made his race go from like a 6.5 to like a 5, because if he didn't get past Hamilton, that would just show the pace difference between him and Piastri this weekend, because Piastri was able to challenge Leclerc, challenge the Mercedes, while Norris was struggling against the weaker Ferrari of Hamilton. So look, there's criticism you can give to Norris, but also you have to be a little bit light on him because of the issues he's had throughout the weekend and throughout the whole season. He's had issues in every single weekend so far. So a tough weekend for him, but look, we have to wait and see for the rest of the season, because I think he hasn't shown his true potential yet.
Interesting. Being light on Norris, you're obviously not familiar with the podcast, Ewan. I'm afraid sometimes we are maybe a little bit tough on Lando Norris. However, I do agree with you. I do think it's been a little bit of a unrepresentative start to the season for McLaren in particular, and it's good to see them back. I would say McLaren are back now. I think they were definitely competitive, should have won the race, as I said earlier, and yeah, I think Ferrari got their hands full. I don't think second place is guaranteed at all for them this season in terms of constructors. What about, though, Mo? Lando Norris, before actually everything happened in Japan, he made the bold prediction that he thinks McLaren will have the best car this season and they will come back in the championships. Your eyebrows raise at me saying that. I'm assuming you don't think that's going to happen.
No, I think it's a bit of the same with the Ferraris. Like the last Calvary, they had a good start, and then they were able to keep the place. So it's Japan is also a harder track to overtake. So I honestly don't think they are quite there yet. Yeah, I think Ferrari is still like a bit quicker than McLaren, and I think the gap to Merck is still a bit too big to close up until the end of the season, because Merck will build up a gap in the beginning of the season. Then when they may have a car that's capable of keeping up with them, then I think the gap will be already a bit too big for them to catch up.
Interesting. Do you agree, Ewan, or do you believe in the McLaren team that they can defend their championship?
I think that's a bit far-fetched for this season. But look, we've seen how the McLaren have developed their car over the last few seasons. 2023, they went from backmarkers to fighting for podiums, fighting for wins. And we saw how they developed through 2024, and that it was good from them. And I feel like they've still got the same people, the same designers that they had back then. I think it's just been quite a hard start because they've had to work out with the engine because they are a customer team. They don't make their own engine. So it's been a tough start to the season, but apparently they got some weight off the car going into Japan, and I think that shows. That shows that they've got the pace now to fight Ferrari, not quite Mercedes just yet, but I feel like it's only up for McLaren now. That might be a bit of a jinx, but I feel like McLaren are looking good, and apparently they've got some upgrades coming, and we've seen that unlike teams like Ferrari, when the upgrades come, they come good. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but it'll be a tall order to fight Mercedes.
Well, they made, I think it was Andrea Stella, made a very good point that McLaren were further behind the championship leaders in 2024 at this point of the season, and then they went on and won the championship anyway by catching Red Bull after Red Bull dominated, actually, the first few rounds of that season. So I think it is a bit of a stretch, and at the minute that Mercedes is still an arm's length clear of everybody else and are comfortable in that sense. But particularly the last two races, I think they've definitely had to sweat for these wins a lot more, and definitely in Japan, it is not straightforward, and that gives a bit of hope to everybody for the remainder of the season that particularly Ferrari and McLaren can make this a bit difficult for Mercedes. Mentioning Ferrari there, JP, Lewis Hamilton, a bit more of a back down to earth performance, let's say, in Japan after the high of Shanghai, where he had his podium in Ferrari and all was looking rosy. It maybe wasn't so in Suzuka. I mean, he was looking good after that safety car, but it didn't end that way.
Yeah, I do think I'm a bit disappointed with what Lewis did this race. I sort of what he can is I was hoping he can maybe help Lando because they basically on the same tires and he should manage a whole yard. But I'm not very surprised that Lando allegedly overtook him because obviously they still have the faster car than Ferrari this weekend. Like what we see from Oscar already, she proved the point pretty well. Um, well, Lewis just doing what he can do basically right now. Obviously, his pace is not as good as what he was before, and definitely not as good as Shell right now. Because yeah, like it's an age thing for him. Like obviously, he's not in his prime anymore. So the way what he do is now just maximize every single opportunity he have, which to be honest, he have done. So I think it's an okay-ish result, but maybe not as good as people think.
Yes, his tune had certainly changed about these regulations after the Suzuka race, that is for sure. He was full praise of it after the first 2 rounds. I'm not sure he was after the Japanese GP, that is for sure. Someone, though, who has been enjoying this change of regulation is Pierre Gasly. For the first time in his career, he has finished in the points for the first 3 rounds of the season, and with a 7th place finish, managed to come out on top ahead of Max Verstappen in a race-long battle in Suzuka, and just by about 3/10 of a second, cleared the Dutchman to the line. Mo, since you're wearing the Alpine gear, I'll go to you first on this one. Is Pierre Gasly kind of, entering another... Well, I was going to say another prime. I'm not sure he really has had his prime yet of his career, but this is, pretty damn good stuff at the minute. I mean, he and Behrman have been the stars of the midfield so far, haven't they?
Yeah, I agree. Like, I didn't expect Alpine to understand the engine so quickly in only three races, and actually to be the leader of the midfield. It looks like compared to Haas and Red Bull. So yeah, that definitely came a bit. It was a bit surprising to see Alpine being able to, be the head of the midfield in the first of the 3 races. And about his prime, like I'm not sure because I don't know how good that Alpine really is. Like, Max isn't in that car, so you can't, see if there was a difference. But I definitely think that Gasly is in a state that he can actually drive very fast with these cars. So I say it's a kind of his prime, but I don't think it's his prime when he was at AlphaTauri in like 2021, 2022, or 2020.
Interesting. I think we need a few more races yet, but at the minute, I mean, Alpine will be so glad they changed that engine. I mean, it's a shame that the Renault engine isn't in that car anymore, and you've got that kind of French team, if you like, of engine and manufacturer and all that jazz. But for them, having that Mercedes engine, it has transformed their fortunes, and they're looking really good. It was interesting today, actually. Alpine released a 1,200-word letter that has dismissed claims that Franco Colapinto's car has been sabotaged. Now, a lot of Argentinians have been pretty angry with Alpine, thinking that they have deliberately been giving Franco a weaker spec of the car, and with Gasly scoring all bar one of Alpine's points so far this season, he has very much been beating him in every single session. Is there any truth to this, GP, or is this all a load of kind of nonsense from kind of home support, if you like?
No one said anything like this about a Red Bull number 2 driver before. When when Albon is in the car, no Thailand people saying that to Red Bull, no French people saying that to Red Bull, no Japanese people saying that to Red Bull. It just the car always performs as it is. Maybe it's hard to drive for some people, it's easier to drive for some people, but it's just the way the car behaves. You can't necessarily change that. So it has a fundamental basis. It might more suitable for a certain driving style, like inevitably, like the old Mercedes are tend to drive smoother, which is tend to like leaning a bit more towards Lewis Hamilton's driving style. Red Bull is a bit sharper, which tends to lean a bit to Max Verstappen driving style. But you can't say that as just as drive bias. It's just the fundamental basis of the car. And in the end, because last season Franco was nowhere near Gasly, so it's absolutely Alpine have their rights to build a car, maybe leaning a little bit towards PS driving habits. So that's completely fine. But I don't think there's really any bias in terms of setup or things like that.
Yeah, I was quite surprised to see that actually. I think Franco's actually not been doing too bad so far this season. So for the Argentinians to kind of really pile on with the abuse, if you like, online abuse, shall I say, I think that's pretty damn misplaced. So, hopefully that'll get sorted out. In terms of the rest of the point scorers, we obviously said Verstappen finished in 8th. We then had Liam Lawson with actually a pretty solid drive in P9 for VCarb. And then Esteban Ocon scoring his first point of the season, finishing just ahead of Nico Hülkenberg, Hadjar, and Gabriel Bortoleto. Arvid Lindblad was also in that kind of pack. And then the Williams pair were pretty much miles off. I mean, Albon in the end was treating it like a test session for pit stops and everything. I mean, he ended up like 2 laps down, for crying out loud. So yes, the James Vowles kind of prediction of, breaking everything and focusing on 2026 is not aging very well. Cadillac were better. They were actually much better, I thought. For Perez, you squint your face at that, Mo. I do see this. What? Go on, tell me. Why were Cadillac not better? Surely, not being 3 laps down this time is actually an improvement.
Because last race, they qualified one of the Aston Martins.
Yes, it's good.
And this race, they were, like dead last in P21-22. So
I see what you're saying.
And yeah, I know they're making a bit of progress, but I still think they're still quite far at the back compared to the rest.
Well, I'm telling you, Perez finishing within a lap of the leader, I think that's pretty good. I mean, it could be worse.
Laps.
I know, very true. But, Cadillac, we have to treat them like, they're some tiny little team at the minute. Every little bit, helps with that team right now. So we'll see. We'll see what they'll do in Miami. Who knows? They could get even better. Aston Martin, it's not even worth talking about them, to be honest. They're still absolutely rubbish. The car is basically undrivable. I mean, Alonso made it to the checker flag this time. And yes, as Mo is perfectly doing the example of there, the vibrations are still ridiculous. I really hope that gets sorted, and then we can actually start talking more positively about them. But yes, it's looking pretty damn bleak at the minute. But they got 5 weeks now to sort things out, and so has every other team to get better and improve in the order. To kind of round things off here, I'm going to spring this on you all. We've not prepped for this, but we're going to say who our top 5 drivers of the season are. We've only have 3 rounds, but we have obviously got quite a significant gap here. And I'm not going to do it individually here. We're going to work together to make this top 5. So this could be a bit chaotic in trying to get to some kind of verdict here. But we'll start with 5th in our top 5. Who are we thinking, guys? Who are we going to place as our 5th best driver of the season so far? Now, use the driver standings to what you will, but obviously I think there's a bit more to it than obviously just the order that it's in. Does anyone have a 5th place driver in their kind of top 5 so far? Mo?
Lewis.
Okay.
Like,
I saw that.
okay,
Ewan, go on. Oh no,
say
go on.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think he's had one good race at China, but I don't think it's enough for top five. Where you've got drivers like Isaac Hadjar and Pierre Gasly, who's been doing really good. I think Hadjar's been doing really good in that second Red Bull seat, which has been really tough so far. So I feel like they're better shout outs for top five and Hamilton, who yes did well in China, but that's one of his best tracks, and that's one of Leclerc's worst tracks. I feel like everywhere else, except especially in Japan, he really hasn't delivered. So I wouldn't put him in top five.
That's a pretty good point, Mo. What do you think about
The reason I'm thinking he's tough, I like in Australia he was a bit unlucky, and he caught up to Leclerc, and in China he re-overtook him and actually pulled away. And Japan was a bit of the one of the worst race of the three, but still I think the two races really made sure that he deserves the top five for me.
that? GP, what do you think?
I'm saying a totally different name.
Totally different. Go on. What? Why?
Yeah, I'm
It's-
saying Lando Norris.
Oh dear, that's just added even more confusion to it.
I don't agree on what Joanne said, especially on Isaac, because yes, I do know Isaac did well in Australia until the car blows up. But if you look at this race, his lasting pace is way, 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 way slower than Max, even in free practice. Like he's about half a second off per lap. That's identical what Pierre Gasly do or what Alex Albon do. Like that's no difference. It's only because Red Bull is shit now, so nobody cares about the driver difference anymore. So that definitely doesn't make him a top five. Like I know Red Bull have a poop car, but you can't just justify a P13 for that one and half a lap. Like you can't be half a lap slower. That's my point. Like 2/10 or 3/10 is doable, or like it's okay for me to say that is okay, but half a second is a bit too much for me.
Go on, Ewan. Go on. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I do agree. The base pace isn't great, but you've also got to think that Hadjar out-qualified Verstappen in Japan. So I feel like that's good, and I feel like we haven't seen that from a second Red Bull driver. And like considering the circumstances, I think Hadjar has definitely got a good enough argument to get into that top five. Maybe I'm definitely top 10, but I feel like there's an argument to get in top five. But look, he's had a decent start to the season compared to Verstappen, and I don't think that can be understated.
What did you say for your fifth pick, Mo? Did you actually say someone?
I said Lewis.
So you said Lewis. You said Hadjar, or did you say Lewis? Hadjar, yeah.
I'll say Hadjar.
And then we've got Norris from GP. I'm saying I've got to decide and vote here. I mean, not that I intended on that, but I mean, there's a bit of a variety here I didn't expect. I think I'm going to lean towards the Hamilton argument there. I think I will lean towards that because I think Hamilton has had a bit of a revival so far this season. What about fourth place spot? I'll go first on this, if I may. I am going to put George Russell here in fourth. And I think, having won the opening round of the season after battling both Ferraris and then doing still pretty good, I thought, in China, and had a lot of battles again with, again, the Ferraris. And I'm pretty sure, won the sprint race, got the sprint pole, and then this is where bad luck started, where I had that qualifying incident in Q3. And then, Japan, no doubt about it, it was a bit of a tough weekend. But I still think he probably deserves a fourth place spot. Does anyone agree, or has anyone got any other thoughts on number 4?
I agree.
I don't know.
Uh,
Yeah, to be
I
honest,
think
yeah,
Oh,
that's a valid.
thank you.
That's a valid.
Thank you. I
For the
mean, sure.
best car, he should have been at least, close to Antonelli to be deserved more. But in terms of the last two races, from what I've seen, I think, it's a bit too embarrassing for him to be finishing P4 in that car in
Yeah.
Japan. And also within China, he couldn't overtake both Ryan and actually lost out at the start. And also did in Japan that he again lost out to the two Ferraris, which costed him a lot of time.
Okay, I did not expect that to be that easy, but thanks, guys. Thanks. What about third place then, or third in the top three? Go on. Who's that? Sorry.
Olaf Behrman.
Ollie Behrman. I like the sound of that. Anyone else? Do shout out.
I agree. I think Behrman has had a great season so far, and I feel like no real fault can be put on him for the issue in Japan. But yeah, he's had a great season. He's just been really ragging that Haas around, and I think it's clear to see that Haas has really got pace this season. But yeah, I think he's done really well with what he's got. So I put him in my top 5 as well.
GP, is this an all round?
Valid point. Like, there's no much argument on.
Perfect. Well, this is going almost easier than I expected here. That's 2 in a row then we've all agreed on. What about second place? Now, I'm going to chuck someone out there, and I'm going to say... I'm going to say Charles Leclerc in second. Have we got any disagreements or any agreements? Do shout out.
Pierre Gasly.
Absolutely no way. Gasly second. You're having a laugh. Second.
I agree.
Of the whole grid.
I agree with Mo.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I think Gasly's had a great season. I think he's done really well, and I think I'd put Leclerc first, to be honest. I think he's had a great season, but I'd put Gasly.
I wasn't expecting that.
I put Pierre Gasly.
I wasn't expecting that. Jeez. Whoa. Wait a minute. So Antonelli's not in the top 5, Ewan?
I think in
Hang on a
general,
minute.
our top 5, I don't think he'd fit.
Under Russell.
I'd put him. I'd agree with Russell in the top 5. I'd put Antonelli somewhere. I honestly think Russell has been a little bit better than Antonelli, considering the car issues that Russell has had.
Wow.
Oh, that's
Well.
embarrassing because first.
Well, I mean, I kind of get, if you apply the luck element to this, I mean, I kind of get what you're saying, because at the end of the day, the luck has been on one side here. But I wasn't expecting him not to be in the top 5, Ewan. Now, I mean, I was expecting you to come with a bold thing here on your debut on the pod, but I wasn't expecting that. I mean, it's not as bad as Gasly second. I mean, come on, guys. What's going on here? I mean, second. He's finished 10th and friggin' 7th place. It's not like he's won a race, for crying out loud. I mean, GP, surely you can back me up here.
He did better than Behrman in my eyes.
What? But
GP,
save me here.
The first race was a bit understanding how the engine works. Second race, they were catching up to Behrman. It was a bit of bad luck that cost him out on P5. And, in Japan, he again showed he was best of the rest. So I think all the race combined, in terms of the circumstances, that I definitely think that Gasly deserves it more than Behrman. But that's my opinion. I know you have a different opinion, so yeah.
Well,
we don't anything.
I mean, look, I respect your opinion, Mo, but it's absolutely wrong. I'm not having that. I'm absolutely not having that. JP, tell me, you don't agree with this, surely?
I put Charles top P2 and I put Gasly P1, to be honest.
Gasly P1, oh my god. I can't believe this. The best driver of the season so far. It's not like the Alpine's
Just go-
crap. The Alpine's a
just go-
decent
No.
car.
No. Tell me one thing. Tell me one thing. Tell me one. If you can answer this, like, where did Gasly did wrong this season? Like one single session. You just can't say that.
Yeah, but
He made every single execution as it should be. That's very important. You especially in this regulation, you have to execute it very precisely in order to put the car in that position.
He's
It's
3-0 to
not
Verstappen
about
as
like the
well,
raw pace
qualifying.
stuff anymore. It's about like pure execution.
I don't know, guys.
That's
I
my
think
point.
this is massively overhyping the Alpine and Gasly start here. I mean, flipping heck, I said he was maybe, kind of in his prime earlier. You guys are saying JP's saying he's the best driver on the bloody grid. What's that all about? I mean, I don't know,
He's not
guys.
making even one single mistake, right?
Yeah, but neither is, like, Carlos Sainz, but the Williams has been totally crap, so it's not like anyone's seen it, I mean, I don't know.
Look,
I think
No,
that's...
I do remember Sainz made one mistake, I think, in Australia. Because I did
What, like
rewatch the onboard stuff.
a
Yeah,
slight
I did
lock-up
rewatch
into
the
a
onboard
turn
stuff.
or something.
Yeah, but like no mistake for like 3 races for all of the sessions is actually pretty impressive, to be honest. Like zero. Because I rewatched the stuff and like you just can't find it. That's damn impressive.
Well, I mean, I am gobsmacked. I'm almost lost for words if there can ever be such a thing, because I did not expect this amount of Gasly praise. This is pro Gasly podcast here, probably bar myself at this rate. But I mean, so wait, you two were saying Leclerc first then in your list. Is that what you're saying on the bottom there, Mo and Ewan? You're saying Leclerc is the best driver? No.
I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that.
Oh God.
I said Kimi.
Okay, that's a bit more reasonable. I thought you were going to say something like Piastri there.
you know-
It's like,
Yeah. If I can explain.
yes.
If we put all the luck aside, all this aside, and we look at the raw pace in Australia, Antonelli closed like 5 seconds to Russell in Australia. In China, he managed to stay ahead of Ferrari, even with advantage Ferrari has in the opening laps with the tire temperature. He stayed in front and actually built the gap. And even when Russell got to second place, he still pulled the gap to Russell. And in Japan, when he finally got the free air, he was like closing like 2 seconds or 1/2 seconds in 2 laps on him. And after the safety car, he also showed that he's not, the learner. He's like, hey, I want to be the coach. I want to be the leader of the team.
But Kimi's start has been like, to be honest, horrendous this season. Like I haven't seen like one single start. Like he's not doing wheel spin. Like there's definitely something wrong with his clutch dropping thing. I don't know why, but like if you see any onboard like for cars behind him, like directly behind, you'll see like the smoke coming out of rear tire in every race starts. He's like doing burnout or something like that. It's really weird. That's why I didn't put him that high. And to be honest, I expect more from him.
Oh,
Because
you
yeah, I
expect more.
from him.
You
More.
expected to put
At this rate, first of all, you can't like
He's
let the
championship friggin'
McLaren.
leader.
No, but at this rate, you can't let a McLaren like jump you at the start of a race. That's BS. First of all, secondly, that's like maybe I should put Kimi ahead of George because with this car you have to like do 1-2 for these 3 races. Like there's no way you're not doing 1-2. So maybe I'll like swap George and Russell, maybe, but like this is unacceptable if you're not doing 1-2s. I don't care about what luck it is. I don't care about what shit start they have. You have a car with this place. You should finish 1-2 every race.
Ewan.
When everyone is saying like like max ever dominant car, he can win like 17, 18 rated. Oh, that's easy. Like try yourself to go do it.
Well, you seem on the same page as GP on the Antonelli thing. Do you agree with the points he's making there?
Yeah, I think Antonelli has had quite, I wouldn't say a poor start, but a shaky start. He crashed a car in Australia. That's something that Russell hasn't done. So that has probably taken the team back a bit in development. Uh, in China, he Russell cooked him in the sprint, 2 temps, 3 temps in sprint qualifying, and in the sprint race, Russell had it covered while Antonelli had a terrible start and went down to like 7th or 8th. And then, yeah, in the main sessions, of course, Antonelli did get ahead, but that was only because of Russell's issues. I think it's been okay for Antonelli, but I won't put him in my top 5. But I would put Leclerc on top because I think Leclerc's had a great start to the season. I think he's been able to hold off a regenerated Hamilton off of he's been looking really motivated going into this season. And yes, Hamilton did look pretty quick at the end of Australia, but Leclerc held him off, and Leclerc had him covered in qualifying in Australia. And look, in China, Hamilton did do well, but Leclerc still did better in the sprint when Hamilton's tyres died off. And in Japan, Leclerc was able to hold off Russell. He's in a very superior car at the moment, with Ferrari probably being third fastest. He absolutely maximized his car in Japan. So look, I think Leclerc has had a great start to the season, and I think Antonelli, his position does not correlate with how he's performed so far.
Interesting stuff all around there. Well, that is pretty much it then. So we ended up in the end there. We had Hamilton 5th, Russell 4th, Behrman 3rd, probably Leclerc 2nd, and then somehow flipping Gasly as the best driver. I mean, maybe those two can get flipped around there a little bit, but I was not expecting that from that segment. But anyways, that has been your lot for this week on the TFR podcast. We've ended up going on a bit of a tangent there, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless, shall I say. Thank you all. Thank you, JP. Thank you, Mo. And thank you, Ewan, for joining me this evening. We'll be back next week with a bit of a different podcast, which I actually have no idea what we're going to do, considering we've got 5 weeks to fill the time until the next round for the Miami Grand Prix. But in the meantime, do make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube, and follow if you're listening on your audio platform of choice. That is your lot then. Antonelli is the youngest ever championship leader in F1. The question is now, can he keep hold of that lead until the end of the season and become the youngest ever champion? We'll find out.